Hello, Network Code community. My name is Tim Fayola. I'm your developer advocate here at Network to Code. And today we're going to be talking about the Nautobot version control app. Specifically, I'm going to give a demo of a Jenkins continuous improvement pipeline added to the workflow shown in the previous video. Now, if you haven't watched that workflow video yet, please do check it out because it sets up the use case for this pipeline addition to the workflow. This video is the third video in a demo series of videos intended to demonstrate the capabilities of Nautobot running the version control app to the larger community. These are the highlights from the demo we're about to see. In the prior video in this series, we demonstrated several layers of human review of the proposed changes. Now, in that review process, we caught a few mistakes, but one mistake made it through into production. Adding an automated continuous improvement or CI test pipeline to that workflow will allow the proposed changes to be automatically checked for standards compliance before they're put into production. In this demo, you'll see Nautobot's webhook feature and REST APIs and how they enable the CI test pipeline. This is the high-level action diagram explainer. The first step would be the user would create a pull request or modify a pull request that has proposed changes to Nautobot's production data. Now, these are just proposed changes. Nautobot would then send a webhook to Jenkins to notify Jenkins that there are proposed changes to Nautobot data. Jenkins would then test the data for compliance. Jenkins, if you're not familiar, is a CI test pipeline platform. Jenkins could then update the pull request with the test results, and if necessary, Jenkins could block the pull request from proceeding further until the errors in the data were fixed. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at how our webhooks are set up in this scenario. Coming back to our Nautobot setup here, I'll go ahead and go over to Extensibility and click on Webhooks. So this specific webhook here, Jenkins PR creation, this is the webhook we're interested in. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. All right, taking a closer look at this webhook, we see a couple things. One, the object type it triggers on is a pull request type object. It gets called on when a pull request is created or updated. Let's see, if we go down here, we have our payload URL. This is where the Jenkins receives the webhook. And this is the body template. This is the information we're sending to Jenkins. We're sending the event, the branch, the PR ID, and then the creator, the person who created the pull request or modified the pull request. It is time now to take a look at the Jenkins setup in this workflow. So here's my Jenkins implementation, and I've created a project called Version Control Pull Request Validation. So let's take a look and see how this project is configured. Now, as I scroll down here through the sections, the first part where any really hot action happens is the build triggers section. In this section, I've installed a plugin into Jenkins that accepts generic webhooks. So that plugin enables Jenkins to receive a generic webhook, which is what we're sending to, which is what it's receiving, excuse me. Okay, so let's take a look and see what's going on here in this section. Now, you take a look here, there's a few variables here in post content parameters. These variables are being defined by expressions. So let's take a look at branch, for example. We have a variable we're defining in our environment OS called branch, and we're assigning that variable the expression of branch. Now, where is this coming from? This branch variable this expression here is coming from the pull request. In the pull request, in the body template, we sent a branch key assigned to a value of the source branch. So back in here, we're simply assigning that source branch name as an environment variable. As we scroll down here, a couple other ones we want to take note of is PRUUID, the pull request ID, and we're also assigning that the expression .PRUUID. Again, we're receiving this from the body template PRUUID key, which has a value. And the same thing applies to creator as well. Now, let's get to the part down here. Oh, before we get there, there's a token here to keep the webhook assigned to the specific workspace as well. Now, as we scroll down here, this is a fairly simple CI pipeline. A production one could clearly be much more sophisticated. But for the purposes of the demo, we're doing a fairly simple one. Now, most of the action here in this workflow takes place here in the build section, where I have placed a Python script. Now, what this Python script does in a nutshell is it receives information from the Jenkins environment, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And then it uses that information to query back to Nautobot to query for specific data that it wants to analyze. It analyzes the data, and then based on the results of the data, if the data complies to whatever standards and tests you want it to, it'll update the pull request saying, go ahead and this pull request has passed. If the data checks do not pass, this script will place the pull request in a blocked status. So let's take a look at the script here. I'm going to scroll down to a specific part that I want to touch on, and that is how we get all the information from the environment into this script. Now keep in mind, the webhook sent some information to Jenkins in the webhook body. How do we get that information into this script? We do it in this section right here. This is really cool. So for example, we see a variable in the script defined as dolt branch, and we define that as the environment variable of branch. So we pull in the environment variable of branch, which is information we receive from the webhook, into the script, and that is now the dolt branch name. The same goes for PRUUID and creator. We're also pulling in the build number, which is just a Jenkins environment variable that gets created automatically. Okay, and to wrap this up, if the tests don't pass, the script exits with a value of 1. And we will see the results of this coming up later in this demo. We're going to take a moment here to review what our pull request state was in the prior video. To refresh your memory, in the prior video in this series, we added a new device, Atlanta Leaf 09, but we gave it the wrong role. We gave it the role of spine mistakenly. Now, neither the requester or the reviewer approver caught this error. If you recall, the reviewer caught a different error and fixed it in the PR process, in the PR review process, but both the requester and the reviewer missed this error of a mistaken role. This error caused production problems once it reached production, and so operations in that prior scenario reverted the entire merge that contained this error. So what we're going to talk about here is how our setup we have today adds another layer of protection. Besides the human review, it adds an automated review layer of protection, to make sure that the data you're putting into production is clean and safe. Now we're ready. Let's go ahead and kick off this demo to see what this new pipeline addition brings us. So if you recall, we have the same scenario we had in our prior video where we have Atlanta Leaf 09. It's added, but it has a role of spine. Now, we have our checks configured in our Jenkins pipeline to catch this exact error so it doesn't get through. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and go to version control, and we'll just go ahead and create a new pull request. The Jenkins video pull request will be the title, and we'll just say something like initial PR creation. So we'll go ahead and create this pull request. Okay, we've created the pull request, and in the meantime, we see it's already blocked. Let's go ahead and take a look what happened. If we go to the Reviews tab, okay, we have a review from Jenkins here. CI checks complete, they failed, place in PR in blocked status. Then we get this output, see Jenkins build number at this URL. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what happened as we access this URL where it's given us our results. Okay, this is the output from our pipeline action here. So as we scroll down here, we see that we have an output section here, test pass false. Then it gives you each Atlanta device and whether the role compliance check passed or failed. And we see that for Atlanta Leaf 9, it is now false. Okay, and then the script is updating the PR. So this output is from our script, and now we have the pull request in blocked status. How do we get out of that? Let's go ahead and do that right now. So this is great news. Our automated CI pipeline caught this error that we as humans missed. It adds that another layer of protection, kind of defense in depth. So let's go ahead and fix this problem right now. So we'll go to we saw that the problem was with Atlanta Leaf 9, so we'll go to organization, we'll go to the Atlanta site, and then grab the Atlanta devices and fix this problem. Here we are, Atlanta Leaf 9. Go ahead and edit it. We'll change the device role to the Leaf role. Here we have an update. Now we're going to go back to our pull request section, and we're going to trigger the pipeline again. So we'll go back to our Jenkins video pull request. So in order to trigger the pipeline again, we want to update this pull request because our webhook triggers on pull request creation or update. So we'll go ahead and edit the pull request, and we'll say fixed bad role. Okay, we will update this. Okay, we've arrived back on the pull request page, and a few things happened really quickly here. So incorrectly, we're seeing this is showing incorrectly that it's blocked, but it's really not. If I do another refresh, it won't come back as blocked anymore. So what happened here was the content rendered as the pull request was changing status. So in reality, this was placed back to in review. Let's go look at our reviews and see what happened here. Okay, so we have our in review status, and Jenkins is telling us now the CI checks are complete. CI checks, the tests pass, and it's given us a build number we can go back and check if we want to. But since our tests pass, we might not be interested in doing that. Okay, so this CI process has worked. It's added another layer of defense against bad data getting into your production environment. So to recap here, this version controlled app enables us to do human review of the proposed changes. It allows us to discuss the changes transparently in the pull request. And we've added a CI pipeline here that adds another layer of defense that does automated checks on the proposed changes to make sure that we're not putting bad data into production. Thank you so much for your time today. This concludes this video. Stay tuned because up next, we have a demo video covering using the version control via API. In this next video, we'll cover examples from Postman, straight Python, and Python using the PyNautobot package. And we'll do demos for how to interact with Nautobot's version control app features in a programmatic fashion. It's going to be a good one, so stay tuned.